So, picture this, your favorite blood-chugging vampire immersive sim is finally getting a follow-up. But bad news, this highly anticipated sequel is going to suck your wallet dry by gating a bunch of its content behind day one DLCs. Talk about a world of darkness. So what is there for a broke box stacker enthusiast to do while we wait out the inevitable price drop during the next Steam sale? Well, once again, we must turn our heads towards the ever-growing number of immersive sims that are being made by small teams and solo developers. If that's the kind of thing you love to see, well, good news, there's a bunch more roundups just like this one on our channel. As for this installment, we've got a bunch of upcoming indies to look forward to, a few that you might have missed, and a couple of real surprises in the mix. If you want to join the ever-growing band of champions in supporting our channel, we'll tell you how you can do so later on. But for now, let's sink our fangs into the latest round of box stackers, code crackers, vent crawlers, and body haulers, because immersive sims are not dead. My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Rollincoons. And together, we are the two-headed hero.
I've always dreamed of causing trouble in a remote French village, and in Oddtown, my dreams have finally been realized. This game has you taking on the role of a pixelated Wallace and Gromit extra in the distant past of 1996. During a road trip through the countryside, your car's engine gives out and you find yourself stranded in the small town of Saint-Sectaire. While trying to scrounge up the $300 to pay for engine repair, which is like, I don't know, probably a down payment on a house in 1996 money, you stumble into a mysterious conspiracy. Not everything is as it seems in Saint-Sectaire. People are disappearing. Sandwich shop owners heavily hint at cannibalism. Do you recruit a team of misfits to try and take a chance at unearthing the town's terrible secret, or do you steal, rob, and side quest your way into making your escape? At its heart, the town of Saint-Sectaire is a small open level with some sections gated off until you find particular tools, but it's incredibly charming. Streets have names like Baguette Street or Fried Snail Avenue. Buildings have quirky angles and odd proportions that remind me of an old LucasArts adventure or a Steve Purcell comic book. The skybox is filled with big, beautiful, puffy clouds. The first leaves of fall have begun to drop from the trees and scatter along the waterfront. And basically, you're just left to your own devices right outside the auto shop as soon as you click that new game button. Whether you vandalize a car, pick a fight, steal a sandwich, sell drugs under a bridge, toss a brick at a cop, or whatever other trouble you decide to get into, victims and passerby will run off and squeal to the cops. And this is no joke, the police will chase you down and tase you into dust and then scoop that dust up and throw it into a cell. Unless, of course, you duck into a clothing store and quickly change your outfit to get rid of your wanted level. And even if you end up getting arrested, you still have a couple of get-out-of-jail-free cards. Some more pleasant than others, which get bricked over every time you're captured, until there's no choice other than to accept your fate and become yet another victim lost to Saint-Sectaire. Oddtown started out its life as a game called Don't Be Sus, which we featured back in another one of these videos, and I've waited to get my hands on a playable build ever since stumbling upon the trailers for this game. Fortunately, solo developer The Flying Baguette dropped a demo onto Steam recently. There's also an upcoming Kickstarter campaign for the game, which is linked down below in the description. So if you ever wanted to vomit your way out of a jail cell or throw a haymaker at an undercover cop, today is your lucky day. Power washing and psychedelic mushrooms might seem like the perfect pair, and if you stick this all into a video game, you'd get Ambrosia Sky. Take on the role of Dahlia, who finally returns to the space colonies she once called home after 15 years, just to find out that they've been ravaged by interstellar fungus. Dahlia's job is a triangle diagram that falls between Space Janitor, Space Coroner, and Space Undertaker. So it's up to her to find out what happened to the residents of the colony as well as provide their last rites. Battling space mushrooms is a lot tougher than you might think, but fortunately you have a few tools at your side. Start out with a little chemical sprayer that has adjustable nozzle spreads and put it through its paces against volatile exploding fungus, power-draining electric mold, even semi-sentient turret shiitakes. Dahlia also has a handy grapple that can pull her up to great heights or whip objects around with astounding velocity. You'll collect, fruit? and stumble across rare and valuable organelles, all the while uncovering bits and pieces of the mystery behind the mildewy disaster. Between missions, you'll trade your delightful fruit samples to upgrade your tools before going back in to see what space horrors the next job contains. Ambrosia Sky is kinda like playing Prey with a power washer. The chill mission-based vibes and gorgeous colorful graphics definitely give off a unique feel, and there's nothing out there quite like it. Soft Rains, the small studio behind the game, has some serious AAA level pedigree, and it shows in the details here. If you want to take a tempting bite out of this little adventure for yourself, check out the demo over on Steam. ExMORTALIS from Override Systems might not be anywhere close to release, but the promise of System Shock with top hats is a pretty interesting one. Right now, there's not a whole lot to see here other than a few grainy social media clips and an extremely promising description on the Steam page. It's 1893 Argentina, and you're trapped in a tower full of mad scientists as well as their experiments. Along the way, you'll make your way through the tower's 12 labyrinthine levels, tackle problems with a variety of solutions, and decide whether or not to evolve yourself in order to gain an edge on the monstrosities. The idea that each of these biological enhancements has a drawback as well as an upside is particularly interesting. This could open up the game for more replayability as you chase down alternate paths that weren't available during your prior runs. ExMORTALIS seems like an ambitious project, but if the dev can pull this off, I'll line up to play Victorian Prey faster than you can say pip pip cheerio and dump a couple of cubes of sugar into my tea. Next up we have another entry that takes place in a tea-sipping Victorian setting, but as far as I know it's also the first immersive sim to be a VR exclusive. Call me old school, but I'm traditionally a pancake mode gamer. Put me behind a screen, I'm comfy as hell. But BRAMBLEFORT might just be the game that changes my mind and finally makes me shell out the big bucks for one of those funny headsets. First off, let's take a look at this trailer. Combining period-specific weaponry, light RPG mechanics, and a Resident Evil-style focus on exploration and problem-solving all sounds like an amazing recipe to begin with. Creepy enemies that range from demented villagers to steampunk contraptions to Dark Souls bosses definitely sweeten the deal. But the clips and trailers show off all sorts of crazy extra goodies, like wielding nearly anything as a melee weapon, or pinning abominations to the walls with a harpoon, or stealing a hat right off a villager's head and plopping it on your own head. These are the extra little touches that will serve to elevate the experience. Honestly, BRAMBLEFORT looks fantastic. Imsims and VR feel like they're a natural fit, even though I'm still holding out hope that one day there'll be a pancake mode version for old school gamers like me that prefer the comforting glow of their monitors. If you've ever wanted to battle bunnymen in a mysterious low-poly dreamscape, well, I guess there's a game for that now too. The Warrens from solo dev Haunted Window might not have a lot of fancy visuals or striking sound effects, but from what we see so far, it makes up for it in sheer, dripping layers of atmosphere. From the isolated motel to the innermost forests, fortresses, and questionable factories, this game is shaping into a journey through minimalist Imsim design. The developer promises a demo soon, and the full game is scheduled to follow just in time for spooky season. Surreal low-poly horror is definitely a vibe I can get into, so if you've ever wanted to shatter windows with a giant eyeball or knock a rabbit-headed man off a bridge with exploding 20-sided dice, keep your own giant, distended eyeballs on the Warrens. You thought we were done with Janitor games? Well, think again. I bet you didn't know this, but satellite signals don't just monitor themselves. No, it falls on a highly skilled class of lone custodians to poke around in server rooms and aim decaying satellite dishes at faraway cosmic signals, all in hopes of turning up something interesting enough for a paycheck. Voices of the Void is a game about wandering around a massive, semi-abandoned Swedish satellite base in a never-ending quest to keep the damn thing running. This game absolutely nails a creepy, abandoned atmosphere. Is it the somewhat chunky graphics and simple shadows, the dirty textures and extreme attention to detail that makes the space feel lived in? The chicken burger sitting on the toilet? Can't quite put my finger on why it's so effective at being spooky, but knowing that the people here shower with their mannequins probably has something to do with it. A mind-bending amount of interactions and encounters are at play here, but unfortunately there's also an equally confounding control scheme that takes a bit of trial and error to figure out. Your top-secret science custodian also has to eat and sleep, and your boss emails you with a daily checklist of jobs to do around the base. Some of these are your run-of-the-mill trash pickup and floor mopping. Some require you to do repairs in remote sections of the base, and still others are centered around screwing with unintuitive retro satellite technology. I'll be the first to admit that I had no idea what I was doing here, and going through the achievements list makes it feel like I've barely even scratched the surface. But this ambitious game from solo dev Mr. Dr. Knows? Hope I got that right. Still remains absolutely free on itch right now. So if you've ever wanted a game about scooping up trash in a creepy, forgotten, mannequin-filled base that simultaneously makes you feel like you need a PhD to play it, there's nothing keeping you from checking out Voices of the Void for yourself. Barely a word has been whispered about The Crimson Lyre, a sword and sorcery immersive sim from solo developer Fleece Cardigan. But if you dare to step into the lush forests and colorful caverns within this vibrant realm, you'll find a lot more than horny Gimlis kicking around. The Crimson Lyre is the story of one man's quest to find a mysterious artifact that can save his homeland. To do this, he'll need to quest for 2 magic songs, the head song, which lies at the top of the highest peak, and the heart song, hidden deep within the core of the earth. Only then will he be able to finally place his grubby little mitts upon the lyre itself and save his home. The quest for a red grandpa guitar mostly involves a lot of hopping around, creeping through shadows, and poking through dark crevices. There's plenty of secrets, loot, and lore tidbits to find, and all this is managed with good old-fashioned grid inventory, along with a handful of quick slots. A rudimentary skill system unlocks by touching these glowy little pillars, which I immediately used to buy the most powerful ability ever to grace an exploration game: double jump.
Interesting.
Crimson Lyre is still in early access, and the level of jank on display is to be expected, but combat really needs to cook a lot longer here. Bad guys are super spongy and rarely show damage feedback. The attack animations are equally inconsistent, so blocking basically boils down to guesswork. Enemy AI is also pretty dumb, so it's often just easier to run around them. As I'm writing this, the Crimson Lyre still sits at 0 reviews, which kinda seems mind-blowing considering the game's been out in early access since May, but honestly this fantasy imsim is far enough along to warrant a wishlist at the very least. Updates are rolling along each month, and there's a whole lot of promise here that's slowly, yet surely, being fulfilled. The number of games that try to capitalize on PS1-era nostalgia might stretch from here to Mexico, but BRIGAND OAXACA is one of the very few I've ever seen that brings back early 90s PC gaming. This isn't just about the graphics either. There's some fascinating control scheme jank and half-baked features hiding beneath the surface that really pull players back to a time when developers were taking their first baby steps into 3D world building. You might be put off by the appalling menu graphics, all the other graphics, the flat-out refusal to scale the interface to a modern resolution, the unnerving message in the lower left corner that tells you not to touch anything when saving the game. To be sure, this is a janky game, but it's the good kind of jank. Because at the same time, Brigand is maybe one of the most ambitious attempts to create an immersive post-apocalyptic world that I've ever seen. The game takes place in the near future after sea levels have risen and washed away vast bastions of civilization. Small factions war over the remaining chunks of land while mutated beasts, bandits, and cyborgs roam around every corner. The first hour alone has you getting framed for murder, chatting with secret agents, defending a banana beer brewery from bandits, and getting mauled to death by dogs. Well, at least if you're as unlucky as I was. But the game doesn't just end at combat. You can talk to nearly anyone about anything. There's different factions to join with, a crime system, crafting, side quests, loot, and a real sense of exploration. This all goes hand in hand with the real sense of risk and reward for poking around in Brigand's most dangerous areas. You'll be knocking open every crate in search of that precious jink, the game's word for coins, and scraping together every penny to afford supplies, because in OAXACA, just one more medkit or ammo mag might make all the difference between life and death. Time and time again, I found myself blown away by Brigand's incredibly punishing combat. But I kept coming back because I was also blown away by its overwhelming depth, high difficulty curve, and the amount of choices it presents to the player at any given moment. There's honestly nothing quite like it out there. But what's even crazier, this was all made by one developer in a custom-built engine all the way back in 2017. And in addition to working on an entirely new game, this dev continues to support Brigand with more campaigns, free content, DLC expansions, even modding support. So if you want a game that truly looks and feels like one of those strange Slavjank products of the late 90s, and if you're up to conquering a significant challenge, BRIGAND OAXACA is not something you want to pass up. So this is it. Another 8 entries into the indie imsim arena. Have you played any of these, or do you have a recommendation for another game from a small team that deserves to be here? Or are you just as excited to vandalize a French village as I am? Maybe let us know down in the comments. If you like what we do here and want to support the channel, then whisper the magic password, 451, into the bouncer's ear. Step through that cozy tavern door and pull up a chair at the heroes table on our Patreon. It's as little as $1 to support the channel and you'll get early video access, bonus materials, and special Discord roles among other benefits. And better yet, you'll get your name shouted in the credits like the brave champions here. Wolfgang Bristol, Adam Uselman, Amelie McNamara, Jaduzable, James Blake, Yaroslav Rybaki, Jim DiFrancesco, Vulpes, Cameron Frement, John Williams, Mirek Hotovi, San Lunette, Thorben Pelzer, and all the rest. If you haven't busted open enough crates to score some jink, you can still help us out by tapping the old like and subscribe buttons, becoming a channel member, sharing the video with your fellow box stackers, and making sure to ring that notification bell to get a reminder of our next roundup or review. We're nearing the 10,000 subscriber goal that we set for the year, and it would be really fantastic if we all got there together. In the meantime, there's a ton of other roundups and reviews on the channel. They should be popping up on your screen right about now. So go have a look, and thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Two-Headed Hero.